gaslighting, the way I explain it to people, imagine if someone approached you on the street. It's a beautiful day. And said, Essie, what color is the sky? You look up, it's blue. They say, no, it's green. You look up again, no, it's blue. And then they parade a field of experts with weird scientific studies from the internet and screamingeagle.com saying, no, the sky is green. And then there's CNN debate panels to debate what color the sky is. And so you sort of have two choices when this goes on and grates on you. You either say, okay, they have a viewpoint, they have a lot of economic anxiety, maybe they see the sky is green, or you go crazy and you start saying, no, you idiots, the sky is blue. And then they say, oh, look at that hysterical woman.
That was Amanda Carpenter. The CNN commentator and Bulwark columnist was on Book TV, interviewed by fellow television commentator S.E. Cupp. The topic, Amanda Carpenter's book, Gaslighting America, Why We Love It When Trump Lies to Us. On May 31st, 2018, on Book TV, she explained what gaslighting is. Fast forward 4 years. In 2022, Merriam-Webster Dictionary chose gaslighting as its word of the year. In this episode of C-SPAN's The Weekly, we talk gaslighting too. Because it wasn't just searching Merriam-Webster. In 2022, gaslighting was the word of the year in another place, Congress. Gaslighting. Merriam-Webster, America's oldest dictionary publisher, said, in this age of misinformation, of fake news, conspiracy theories, Twitter trolls, and deep fakes, gaslighting has emerged as a word for our time. In 2022, lookups for the word gaslighting on Merriam-Webster.com increased 1,740% over the year before. Merriam-Webster's editor told the Associated Press it was a word looked up frequently every single day of the year. And it's a word you heard frequently in Congress this year, too. But first, one more time, what's gaslighting again?
Just to remind people who are not familiar with the term gaslighting, I thought the 1944 movie with Ingrid Bergman is a great movie. I've watched it more than once. But her husband was making her think she was going crazy or was crazy when she wasn't at all. He was being evil. This from Medical News Today says, gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse where a person or group makes someone question their sanity, perception of reality, or memories. People experiencing gaslighting often feel confused, anxious, and unable to trust themselves. The term gaslighting derives from the 1938 play and 44 film, Gaslight, in which a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she has a mental illness by dimming their gas-fueled lights and telling her she is hallucinating.
That was Congressman Louis Gohmert, Republican of Texas, on the House floor May 13th, 2022. Here's another definition from the other side of the aisle and from the other side of the Capitol.
Republicans are tying themselves in knots, trying to convince Americans the big lie is really what Democrats are doing. That's what McConnell started saying. That's a little standard technique of theirs. They take something like they use dark money and they say Democrats are dark money, which is, ridiculous. We're trying to end dark money in the Freedom to Vote Act. And now he says Democrats have the big lie. That's gaslighting. What McConnell did on the big lie is a classic definition of gaslighting.
That was Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer speaking to reporters January 11th, 2022, in the Capitol. Similar remarks from Majority Leader Schumer the day before on the Senate floor.
Our Republican colleagues have gone to great lengths recently to distract from the dangers of Donald Trump's big lie. Senate Republicans are so stung by our arguments about voter fraud and the big lie that the Republican leader has actually tried to argue that it's actually Democrats pushing a big lie when we warn about voter suppression. The threats of voter suppression are not false, they are dangerous. The leader's line of argument, the Republican leader's line of argument is gaslighting, pure and simple.
In fact, Leader Schumer went to the rhetorical well of gaslight several times during those early days of 2022. Here he is again that same week, January 13th, discussing a voting rights bill.
And every senator will be faced with a choice of whether or not to pass this legislation to protect our democracy. There's been a lot of gaslighting here on the floor lately from the other side about power grabs, about takeovers, but precious little in terms of substance.
That same day, January 13th, a Republican in the House discussed voting laws and mentioned gaslighting too. Here's the founder of the House Election Integrity Caucus from New York, Claudia Tenney.
It's Groundhog Day again on the House floor. Yet again, our Democratic colleagues continue to gaslight the American people by claiming that despite record turnout in recent elections, Republicans are scheming to steal the sacred right to vote from our fellow citizens. What is their solution to the problem, which they assure you is very real? It just so happens to be a partisan federal takeover of elections that empowers unelected bureaucrats in Washington to oversee local elections and overturn popular voting protection laws.
Not just voting laws, gaslighting found its way into Congress debate on other topics too, like abortion. From July 14th, 2022, here's Democratic Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto.
We've seen women's reproductive rights eroded steadily for decades, and we know that anti-choice activists won't stop. This is a form of gaslighting, to keep insisting that American women will be able to get care when we know that anti-choice legislators and groups are working to stop them from doing so.
Another topic for mentioning gaslighting, gas. From March 15th, here's Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst.
And the president has failed to live up to his promises when it comes to biofuels all across the Midwest, which would benefit the entire United States if we would utilize more of our homegrown energy resources. So let's not be fooled. The president is literally gaslighting the American people. He feels if he says it enough, people are going to believe that fuel prices were Putin's fault.
Likewise, in the House, on May 18th, 2022, Congresswoman Stephanie Bice, Republican of Oklahoma, talked gas and gaslighting.
I'd like to remind my colleagues that the price of gasoline is determined on a global market based on supply and demand. The way to lower prices is to increase supply, and we can do that by unleashing American production. Sadly, the administration has been doing the exact opposite, delaying permit approvals, denying access to public lands, and gaslighting the energy industry.
From Bice to Heiss, also using the gaslight rhetorical device. Representative Jody Heiss, a Republican from Georgia, was on the House floor July 28, 2022. Here's his reaction to what Congress was debating that day, the private ownership and breeding of lions and tigers.
We have Americans literally suffering right now economically, and we're debating big cats. Really? Of all the things that are important, we're in here talking about big cats. We have an administration right now gaslighting the American people by trying to change the definition of a recession, which we are experiencing.
All these gaslighting mentions on C-SPAN in 2022 leads to our bonus clip. To be consistent with Merriam-Webster, we've limited our gaslighting examples to this year, but the word has been used on C-SPAN going back decades. Here's one of the earliest, from October 14th, 2004, answering the question, who will you vote for in the presidential election, John Kerry or George W. Bush? Here's comedian Jon Stewart.
Who am I going to vote for? Right now, it's looking like Kerry. I mean, unless there's a crazy Hail Mary. I mean, I'm not saying he's out of it and something could change, but I would be stunned if something happened to change my mind. And that's not, in any way, I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm just telling you honestly that at this point, I have never seen reality distorted in a manner that makes me feel like they're trying to gaslight me. And I don't think that effective policy means say it louder and more times. Doesn't work for me.
What we will say louder and more times, use the C-SPAN video library. Find many more gaslighting mentions on C-SPAN over the years by politicians on both sides. Just go to cspan.org and enter gaslighting in the search bar on top. That's all you have to do. It's that easy. You do believe us, don't you? That's it for this episode of C-SPAN's The Weekly. It's been a real gas. Thanks for listening, and happy searching.